Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Desi Sports Fans Cricket Show. Yes, we're back, and it's really good to be back talking about cricket as well. I think the Indian team waited for the Olympics to go back before they gave us an amazing performance that's been talked about everywhere, and that will live for us for a while. So we will get into that. Apologies for that phone. If you've just heard that noise, I do apologize. Let me switch this off. I am on holiday working, but people still want to get hold of me. But they probably know that about to speak to a very special person. That is really good to have him back. Hello, Prasen. Welcome. And how are you, my friend? Oh, I can't hear you.
Hi Bharat, first of all, so good to be here again. I think it's been a long time. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Yeah, I was just saying it's great to be back here. It's been a long time. I think a couple of bouts of illness, a few vacations, and we're finally here. So good to be here. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good, really good. Like I said, I'm on holiday at the moment, so taking a break. I was away last week in Devon, which was really, really nice for the first time in I can't remember how long, but yeah, been good to get away from it all. But you can never get away from sports, and you can never get away from cricket, especially. So it's good to be back talking about cricket as well. How have you been for the past few weeks? Because it has been a while since we've spoken.
Well, to be honest, the Lord's win hasn't sunk in yet. I think one of India's best wins for a long, long time after that Australian tour that happened. But yeah, it's been pretty fun. I think with the IPL coming up and India's tour of Sri Lanka finishing and India's tour of England starting, I think there's been a lot of cricket that's kept us occupied. It's been very, very fun to cover it. Staying at home isn't fun, but to cover sports always sort of makes up for it. So it's been good. It's been hectic, but you can't really complain when sports is what's keeping you hectic.
Yeah, and I was thinking about our show well, probably a month or 2 months back when we did the top 10 moments of Indian cricket, and I thought this would certainly go into that top 10. And the way the Indian team was performing, we should do that sort of a top 10 every year because that was an outstanding performance. But we will get into that because there's a lot to catch up on. And you mentioned the Sri Lanka tour, which seems a distant memory now, but I remember us talking about it quite a bit while it was going on. Got affected really badly with the COVID bubble being broken, and that spoiled the T20 series. But looking back, how do you think that tour went, and any lessons learned by the Indian board, Indian selectors?
Well, I think it was always going to be a matter of experimentation. When they picked the squad, straight away you could see that it was all about giving chances to youngsters who have done well in the IPL. I wouldn't say it went as per plan. It certainly didn't go as per plan. We didn't expect to lose 2-1 to Sri Lanka in the T20 series, considering how much of turmoil that Sri Lanka has been. But that just goes on to speak so much about how T20 cricket is unpredictable on any given day. Any given team can beat another team if they're in good form, if the players find their rhythm on that given day. And the way Wanindo Hasaranga bowled, especially in the third T20, 81 for 8, I think isn't a good score by any means. We did have only 5 batsmen. People might say they didn't pick enough players, but where were the players? We didn't have any players to pick from. We had only 5 batsmen to play. Bhuvneshwar Kumar walking in at 6-7. Kuldeep
Mm.
Yadav, the highest scorer in that match with 23 to his name. It was a very, very weird series, if I can put it that way, because we didn't expect to lose in the way that we did. But I think that goes on to show that how much ever you do well in the IPL, international cricket is a different ball game altogether. Rahul Dravid did mention that he wanted a lot more out of his batsmen, but it's a big learning curve for them. All of them were youngsters in the team, just coming off maybe 1 or 2 IPL seasons. So overall, not too disappointed, but I definitely say that the batsmen could have applied themselves a lot better. The second T20I 132, the third T20I 81 weren't exactly acceptable scores, if I can put it that way. But I think there's a lot to learn, and with the seniors back for the T20 World Cup, I think it'll be something great to watch out for.
Yeah, it was disappointing with the T20 series because that's the main reason, the tour was put together to give some people a chance to make it into the World Cup squad. And it was disappointing and, sad that it got spoiled by that COVID bubble being broken, and we lost so many players that would have played in that T20 series. But in the one day series, I think we dominated with this B team of ours against the Sri Lankan very strong team at home. So that was good to see. But just a couple of players I want to mention and see what your thoughts are on whether you think they've made it into the squad. Obviously, we've got the IPL, so you never know what could happen. But just based on that, Surya Kumar Yadav, I think most people would think should be in the squad. And what are your thoughts on Bhuvi?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about Bhuvi, to be very honest, because I don't think he's hit his straps yet. Unfortunately for him, he won't have the IPL to prove his worth because I think the boards need to submit their final squads by September 15th, and September 19th is when the IPL starts. So that Sri Lanka series was probably his best bet. I think in the first game, one of those games, he picked up 4 wickets, and he did look good. But given the fitness concerns and given his recent form in the IPL. I'm not too sure if he's going to be a sure shot pick. I definitely think he will be in the squad. Obviously, given the fact that Bumrah, Deepak Chahar, Shami are all in the ahead of the pecking order, I'd say that Bhuvi isn't a sure shot pick for me. In terms of Suryakumar Yadav, I think he certainly should not only make the squad but also make the 11. A player who's as versatile as Surya obviously deserves that recognition that, and obviously he scored a half century as well. He's been really good for the Mumbai Indians. He can float up and down the batting order. So I think a player as good as him should certainly make the squad, and I really hope he does, and also sort of land a spot in that first 11.
And what about Hardik? He didn't have the best of series. He didn't look fit, if I can say that. What do you think about his chances? Or is it simply because we are so short of all rounders of that caliber? Obviously, we won't mention one player who could replace him, a favourite of our colleague Shashwat's. Do you think Hardik's done enough or should be in there?
Yeah, I think Hardik certainly making the squad simply because of his exploits in the recent past. I feel obviously we did see him bowl a fair bit in the nets in the series, and we obviously didn't get to see much of him. Obviously he didn't play the last game, and he didn't bowl much as well. But I mean, in terms of what he brings to the table, I think we don't have too many finishers. Apart from Rishabh Pant and probably off late Ravindra Jadeja. So I think Hardik Pandya certainly makes the squad, in my opinion. The only problem there is, if we play both Rishabh Pant and Hardik Pandya in the 11, that just means we're going to be a bowler short if Hardik Pandya can't bowl. So I think him making the squad is a certainty, but he'll have to bowl quite a bit in the IPL to prove his fitness and to prove that he can bowl as well, because obviously we're going to be playing on the same conditions in the UAE for the T20 World Cup as well. So if he can get himself to bowl a few overs for the Mumbai Indians, get himself into that fitness, I think he'll definitely walk into the 11 as well.
And does he walk into the 11 if he can bowl for 4 overs?
I mean, obviously
Or
he's a
because he's
he's a better
batting
commodity
of
with both
late?
bat, ball, and on the field as well.
Yeah, his batting of late
Yeah,
hasn't
off
been.
late he's just been batting.
Yeah, yeah. So when
Yeah, I
he.
mean, yeah, his batting off late certainly hasn't been great. He hasn't hit his straps. He sort of struggled. He certainly did struggle with the bat, and those aren't great signs. But obviously Hardik Pandya, what he brings to the table, it's like when Rishabh Pant basically fails in a test match, Kohli or whoever it is in the team just basically backs him to come good, and they keep saying that's the way he plays. We're not going to change anything about it. So I think Hardik Pandya certainly will use this phase two of the IPL to get himself back into form. I think it'll be very important for him to first bat himself into form and then find a way he can get to bowl as well. Because I think he's a better commodity with the bat, the slog overs, and obviously if he can chip in with a few overs, maybe 2 or 3, maybe not 4, that'll also be very useful. So I think it's going to be a very important IPL specifically for Hardik Pandya, because he's going to be a very important for a player for us going into the T20 World Cup.
And anybody else that I couldn't see have been, put themselves in front of the selectors from the Sri Lanka tour that you think should be considered?
I'm not entirely sure, but I don't. I think Varun Chakravarti has certainly made a good case for himself with the way he bowled and with the various creations that he had. He certainly troubled the batsman quite a bit. Rahul Chahar also looked pretty good, in the one game that he played, and he picked up wickets. So one player who probably is probably not happy with the way things went is Yuzvendra Chahal, because obviously after that IPL, he didn't play much in the England series, didn't do much in the Sri Lanka series as well. So for him to make that 11, with Rahul Chahar and Varun Chakravarti hot on his heels will be very, very important. Given that he was underbowled in the first phase of IPL, I think it'll be interesting to see where Virat Kohli places Chahal in terms of not just RCB but overall in the Indian picture. So I think Rahul Chahar and Chakravarti have certainly made a good case for themselves. And one more guy who probably would not be happy with the way things went is Sanju Samson. Obviously, that inconsistency, everyone's been talking about it. He struggled against spin bowling, and for him to sort of make a comeback and prove his worth would be very, very hard. Given that the phase 2 of the IPL won't be too many matches to play. So I think Chahal and Sanju Samson have probably undone themselves in some sense, and Rahul Chahar and Varun Chakravarti have made a strong case for themselves.
Even a year ago, you would have thought Chahal would have been a shoe-in for the T20 World Cup. But it just goes to show the strength, and we've said it so often, it goes without saying that there's so many options now that even people like him are under pressure. Hardik, you could probably understand, from what you say, that he's that one player that you could probably afford to have in the 15-man squad because of what he could potentially bring. And he could raise his game from the IPL, like you said, as well. But that's not an option for Chahal, is it?
No, absolutely not, because the problem is he just gives you 4 overs, and there are many bowlers who can give you 4 overs. Given that the IPL has produced so many talents, and the problem I think with Chahal is that he sort of lost his confidence. You can see that in the way, obviously, like I keep saying, he was underbowled in the IPL. He didn't bowl too much against England as well, and the fact that he didn't pick up too many wickets against Sri Lanka either is probably signs of him dwindling in terms of form. And with Rahul Chahar and Varun Chakravarti doing really well, mystery spin is something that's heralded and spoken about so much. So Varun Chakravarti also was a part of the T20 side before he was injured in the previous series, and now that he got his chance, he did relatively well. So I think Chahal certainly is under pressure. I'm sure he knows that his job isn't going to be easy moving forward. But like you said, probably a year ago you'd have considered Chahal to be a shoe in the side, and I'm sure he probably is even now, that he'll certainly make the squad. But for him to sort of cement his place in the 11 will certainly depend on how he goes in the IPL. So a very important IPL for both Chahal and Hardik Pandya, in my opinion.
But you said that the squads have to be in before the IPL starts. So would you risk Chahal?
I'm sure he'll certainly make the squad.
Really?
Given that he has been Virat Kohli's go-to spinner in the past 1.5, 2 years. Yeah, I certainly think so, because leg spinners are obviously worth their weight in gold, especially in the limited overs format. He also certainly has the experience, and obviously he's a bowler who's blossomed under Virat Kohli. Kohli has transformed Chahal into the bowler that he is, and given that they've worked together for so many years, I certainly think they will pick him in the 15-man squad. I'd be surprised if they don't. But that said, I wouldn't be surprised if they have another backup for Chahal in the form of Rahul Chahar or Varun Chakravarti. So I think he'll make the 15-man squad, but he'll need to have a really, really good IPL to take that confidence into the T20 World Cup.
Yeah, and one job I wouldn't like is to be that in that selection committee, because that is going to be a very, very tough meeting in terms of who gets into the 15-man squad. Obviously, there's certain people that are already penned in, but there's so many, like you said, to pick from. That there are going to be a lot of disappointed young men. But the good thing is there's another T20 World Cup next year, so they won't have too long to wait until they get another chance. But that's something that we'll talk about once it's announced, and obviously we'll do shows around the World Cup as well. But just to talk about the bench strength and how tough it is in Indian cricket, one of the big news for me certainly was hearing about Unmukt Chand's withdrawal from Indian cricket and selection. I was really surprised by that. Incredible talent, young man that led us to a World Cup win. And when you see the other people that led us to under 19 World Cup wins, they all went to have glittering careers and are having glittering careers at the moment. What went wrong for the young man? Although he's 28 now, but obviously when he won the World Cup, he was a young man with a lot of potential. What happened?
I'm not. I can't really, point at one particular thing that went wrong with Umnok Chand. I think it was a whole bunch of things that went wrong with him. Right when he announced his retirement, if you followed the chain of reactions or chain of replies that came to that one tweet, most of them were about Brett Lee castling him on the first ball of that IPL tournament that happened, where he was bowled of the first ball of the tournament, and that just goes on to show how much pressure that
Hmm.
social media can put on an individual, how much it can influence an individual's career and things like that. And I just actually went back to see that 2012 Under 19 World Cup squad that was there that represented India. And surprisingly enough, I could see only three names, or rather two names, that have gone to make it big: Hanuma Vihari and Sandeep Sharma. Everyone else, they've done well in the domestic circuit. They've done well in the red ball format more than the white ball format. Names like Prashant Chopra, Roosh Kalaria, Unmuk Chand himself. He obviously played for Delhi and then he went on to play for Uttarakhand. It just seemed like, Unmuk Chand's career was not going anywhere. Obviously, he played for India A as well, but he's been criticized so many times. I think Kapil Dev also once went on stage and famously said that Unmuk Chand missing out on that India A camp to attend a private seminar was not something that he wanted, in terms of what the Indian structure was at that point in time. So I think overall the 2012 Under 19 batch was probably cursed in my opinion, because 2016 saw a lot of players going through. 2018 saw a lot of players: Prithvi Shaw, Shubman Gill, Riyan Parag, so many players going through. 2020 obviously also saw a lot of players coming into the system. I think the real problem with 2012 was that by then the IPL had already become a good model. In 2008, obviously the players were coming in fresh. Teams wanted fresh talent, so they picked almost everyone from that under 19 squad that they had. But in 2012, I think 4 years into the IPL, teams knew what they wanted, so they didn't really pick these youngsters. And since then, since 2016, IPL has become so big that they want youngsters, they want to infuse new talent. So I think that the transition or the middle phase of the IPL was where Unmuk Chand's team was done in, and more so himself, because I think he tried to do a lot of things. I think even a few years back, he did try his hand at broadcasting because his cricket career wasn't going anywhere. He was obviously touted to be the next Virat Kohli. He certainly had the strokes. He had the reputation. He had the talent. But unfortunately, it never translated so much into white ball cricket as much as it did from red ball cricket, where he did score a couple of centuries. So I think it's a mix of him not getting chances and the fact that he probably didn't do too well in the IPL. And by then, because the IPL had become such a big deal, he did sort of fall into the shadows.
And it also goes to show the pressure that the young people are on. He's still 28, but he's obviously been through the mill where he's just not been able to get on top of it because he's been under pressure since winning that World Cup. Because you get an automatic tag when you do so well at a young age because you've got so many predecessors who've gone on to, even at that time, who went on to have, like I said earlier, fantastic careers, that you're automatically under pressure to perform. And, you mentioned the Brett Lee ball, but it just needs a sort of different mentality. And the person that I was comparing him to in a certain way was Prithvi Shaw, in the sense that he obviously won the World Cup, but then it went under so much scrutiny and pressure. Especially, we saw what happened in Australia. But he's had the mental toughness to work it out and come back, and is in England at the moment. And that's the difference. You just need another level of mental toughness, don't you?
Absolutely. I think Indian cricket is more about mental toughness than character, or rather, the talent that you have, because the talent is obviously there, and your name won't even come into discussion if you don't have the talent. So I think it certainly is about mental pressure, how you handle that, how you prove yourself as a character, how you sort of manifest into a person who can handle that social pressure, be it bouquets or brickbats. But I think more than that, Unmuk Chand certainly didn't get as many chances as he probably should have. He did get his chances on the India A tours. He did get his chances in the IPL, but obviously more so in the IPL, he didn't convert his chances. He didn't score big. He scored big in the red ball format, but by then I think we had a settled team. of senior players under Dhoni's leadership, and there was no chance for Unmukthan to sort of fit into that team that we already had. So I think that's where it all went wrong for him. He probably was playing cricket at a time where it was, the Indian cricket had already settled into a good atmosphere under Dhoni, and so obviously he didn't get as many chances as he probably should have. So overall, I think he was undone by the time in which he came into play cricket. Him winning the Under 19 World Cup in 2012, didn't really mean much at that point in time, probably, given that there weren't too many spots up for grabs. So, really unfortunate. Obviously, I hope he goes well in the USA League that he's playing. I think he's playing for a team called Silicon Strikers, if I'm not wrong, or
Yeah, I don't
something
think
like that.
I don't know. I read somewhere
Um,
that his first outing didn't go too well.
Yeah, it didn't go too well there either. I hope he makes his chances count there at least because
Do
I'm
you,
sure he knows how it feels when he doesn't get it right. Yeah.
and do you think this is the nature of things at the moment, where a young person, if he doesn't make it in the IPL, he doesn't want to play Ranji? Do you think we've got to that stage? Because obviously, with IPL, even if you don't make the national team, you're still going to earn a good living. I'm not saying Ranji, but the players
Yeah.
don't. But it's a grind, isn't it? Ranji Trophy, state cricket is a grind compared to the IPL. That players are we're going to see more of this. That if they have a couple of bad seasons in the IPL, then don't get in the auction and don't get picked, that they're going to give up on the game.
No, I think you bring up a very, very valid point. And I did speak to Manpreet Dhoni as well, the all-rounder
Yeah,
who played for the Chennai Super Kings. And he actually retired, the same day or probably a few days after Yuvraj Singh retired to go and play in the Global T20 League in Canada. And I did speak to him and I brought up this very point asking him, why youngsters don't prefer to play the Ranji Trophy, why they're looking to play, more of white ball cricket. And he said it's very simple. Why would you play 5 days of cricket and earn 1/5 of what you're earning in the IPL, or maybe even 1/10 of it? Because the BCCI doesn't really pay players. In the Ranji Trophy, they don't value, their contributions in Ranji Trophy. I think only off late this year, BCCI has actually come up with a system where they're saying that they're going to pay players 30% extra, 40% extra, depending on the matches and things like that. They're putting up fixed sum of money for each and every format, and I think that's the way to go forward. But youngsters nowadays, obviously, I think they've realized the value of the IPL. That's what commercialism has done to cricket. Is that IPL is far more valued than any other format or any other domestic match. But that said, I think players need to come out of the system. I've always been a very, very big advocate of the fact that IPL cricket shouldn't be considered when you're picking a test team, and Ranji cricket should obviously be the sole focus, because if you're picking players out of the IPL, you'd want them to play IPL like cricket. If let's say you're picking, and that's why I was very happy that Devdutt Padikkal didn't make the trip to England, simply because he isn't prepared for that sort of an atmosphere. You have seen him score 400 runs in the IPL, but he's not going to give you that sort of an attacking form of cricket, or he's not going to give you that fluent form of cricket when you put him against the likes of James Anderson, Ollie Robinson, Stuart Broad in England. So you need to pick cricketers who are coming in from the grind of playing that sort of Ranji Trophy cricket, playing 5 days of a competitive test cricket. So I think the times will certainly change. But that said, I don't think the Ranji Trophy is as high paying as it probably should be. But hopefully that changes, and more cricketers, more youngsters realize the value of red ball cricket as well.
yeah, and something you mentioned there, it's being highlighted here in England in terms of selection from red ball cricket, because there's no red ball cricket going on at the moment, and they're picking players from white ball cricket to play test matches,
The
and we'll talk
100 and
about that in a bit as well. But yeah, it's a shame with Unmukt, and like I said, like you said, hope he has sort of a career in England. He'll always be remembered for bringing that World Cup to us. So all the best to him. But another piece of news that it's happening right now, and really really sad pictures, is from a neighboring country, Afghanistan, and the impact of what's happening there now that could have on the team, because cricket really took off once the coalition forces took over Afghanistan in 2001. That's when it progressed, and we found this powerhouse of cricket that's just gone leaps and bounds in 20 years. No other cricket nation, I don't think, has progressed so quickly, and brought so much talent that's world class level. it's incredible the way it's happened. What do you think that's how it's going to affect the national team? I mean, the men's and women's, because obviously there's the World Cup coming. The women's team has just been reintroduced a couple of years ago. It's really sad to see. How do you think things will pan out there?
Yeah, in terms of the women's cricket, I think it's going to be really hard for it to sort of get that respect and get that status that it has, because obviously we know what the Taliban stands for in terms of women in Afghanistan. Obviously, it seems to be coming at a stage where the Taliban have said that we're a better group now, we're more peaceful and things like that. But that'll probably be seen over a period of time and what they do with that. But what's interesting is that Afghanistan cricket did come into existence in that 1996 2000 period when Taliban was running the country. That's when they were
But more
registered as
in
an official cricket board and things like that. And fairly recently, one of the former Afghanistan cricketers, I can't seem to recollect his name, but he was saying that the ACB chairman Farhan Yousafzai was actually running ACB from his headquarters in London, and that was something that was not helping the domestic structure of Afghanistan, because if you're not in the country watching the games, watching how the sports happen, watching how the players are developing, that's never going to help. And so he was saying that the biggest positive of Taliban coming into the country is that cricket will probably flourish now, given that the chairman will be someone who is in Afghanistan and will be overlooking the procedure that happens. Obviously, Afghanistan has produced so many star cricketers: Rashid Khan, Mohammad Nabi, Mujibur Rahman. We are seeing Rahmatullah Garbaz now basically making his name. So we're seeing a very good Afghanistan team forming, and I just hope that it sort of becomes a. And for some reason, he also mentioned that Taliban likes cricket and they favor cricket and things like that. So I hope that's really true, and we see that Afghanistan cricket is. I mean, obviously, they're also there in the T20 World Cup. They're going to be playing a series against Pakistan the next month in Sri Lanka after it moved from UAE. So it's going to be a very important couple of months for Afghanistan cricket to see that how it transpires and what happens. So overall, according to what is there in the news and what is there as per reports, I don't think Afghanistan cricket is going to be at a place where it can't recover. And in fact, it might actually be in a good place right now.
Uh, well, it's good to hear that from you. That you're quite optimistic in terms of the men's game. Obviously, we know what's going to happen to the women's game if the track record is repeated. But in terms of men's team, I don't think it's unfair to say they're semi-final contenders, considering the talent they've got in the T20 format. Nobody will like to play them at any time of the T20 World Cup, but the real test will be the mental, you know, capacity because of what's happening back home with their families and what have you. And the first test will be whether the series against Pakistan takes place, because it's not going to be easy for those players. I know Rashid Khan's playing in the 100 at the moment, and he's got family back home, and he's been talking about it. But it's not going to be easy for them, and it's going to affect their game surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anything that comes, in terms of family, is certainly going to be playing on in their minds. Rashid Khan did put up a very emotional post early on last week, saying that please don't kill our countrymen. We respect each and every person. We hope that our families aren't affected, and I'm sure that'll be playing in his mind. Obviously, all three of the Afghanistan players, in fact, will be playing for the Sunrisers Hyderabad in the IPL. But before that, he'll be taking part in the 100. They have the series next month against Pakistan. So I think a lot of things happening. Like you said, the series might not even happen because of the IPL, and these players might not even take part in that competition. So for Afghanistan to even sort of put up a team in this crisis and sort of take to the field will be something really monumental. And I hope that it goes through, because that's what Afghanistan needs right now, some assurance that the country is in peace. Things are happening in a positive sense, and they aren't looking back at times when the country was in doldrums. They had to flee and things like that. So I think Afghanistan cricket is certainly producing talent. Like you said, they could be semi-final contenders. They're obviously in our group as well with India, New Zealand, Pakistan, and Afghanistan in the same group. So it's going to be some very exciting cricket from them for sure in the T20 World Cup. I hope they do put up a good challenge, and it's definitely going to be interesting. So I hope that the change in the political structure or atmosphere there doesn't really affect their cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're a wonderful team to watch. They play with a smile on their face. They bring a lot of fun, but they're really talented bunch of cricketers as well. And just when they've got a real chance of progressing in the T20 World Cup, for this to happen, it's a shame. But I'm glad you're optimistic, because when I was starting to hear the news over the weekend, I really thought my thoughts were with those sportsmen from that country, especially the women. But hopefully, cricket might show the way for that new government, and see what happens. So we'll see how that pans out, and obviously we'll talk about it as we get nearer the tournament. But talking of the tournament, I'm pretty sure they don't get a computer to pick the fixtures in terms of who plays when, because there's no way the computer would have picked out India Pakistan, the first game in our group, just to a slow start to the tournament. Let's have India Pakistan, as one of the opening games. If you want to get a billion plus people watching TV from the start, get interest in the tournament, there's no bigger game. But I think that what do you think of that first game and India's schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the ICC planned India Pakistan first and then everything around that, because obviously, India Pakistan is as rare as anything there you can find. And the only time, our two countries sort of are at loggerheads is during these ICC tournaments. So I'm sure that the ICC would have planned this match first and then everything around that, because you can't have a bigger start to a tournament than an India Pakistan clash. So Diwali is coming early. October 24th is the match that's happening, India Pakistan, and I absolutely can't wait. I mean, given the way Pakistan have been playing, given the way we've been playing, it certainly is going to be a blockbuster clash. And I'm happy that we certainly have the easier group, because the other group is, oh my God, it's literally the group of death with Australia, England, West Indies, South Africa, and it's gonna be absolutely sensational to follow this T20 World Cup with the teams in the form that they are. And India Pakistan, I mean, I mean, like I said at the start, it's basically a new festival on the calendar that we have, and it can't get more exciting. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
For us, it can work in two ways. Obviously, you won't need any motivation or anything like that to play that game, but winning will really set us up for that tournament completely. And we should go into that tournament favourites, I think. I mean, Pakistan have got a decent, well, more than a decent T20 team, but we should go in as favourites. But a loss in that game to those your neighbours, it's going to be quite a bit to recover from.
Yeah, I mean, I think half the people will stop watching the T20 World Cup if we lose against Pakistan, because it's absolutely I'd go as far as saying that it probably is a crime to lose against Pakistan in a match, because of all that's involved, the stakes that are there. There's probably no bigger game on the calendar with the stakes as high as an India Pakistan game. So luckily we've had the wood over them in the
Yeah.
past few encounters. Obviously they haven't won much against us in terms of the T20 format. But yeah, I really hope that we pull it off, because like every time it happens in the IPL, and RCB CSK clash and India Pakistan clash in the international games, the Ashes, I think you really need to win those games, and sort of prove that you're better than that very opposition. And even if we lose to Afghanistan, it won't matter as much as it'll matter if we lose to Pakistan.
I don't think that cricket stadium is big enough. 25,000 for India Pakistan. Those tickets are going to be like unbelievable prices.
Yeah, I mean, if commercialism of cricket has taught us anything, they're certainly going to make all their money in that one game. Because I think it's going to be sold out. You might even find people, if COVID wasn't the case, you'd have two people sitting on one seat and things like that, because it doesn't get bigger than India Pakistan. So I think the sales are going to be off the roof. It's certainly going to be very, very exciting.
Yeah, I think too. They've opened the registration for the. I don't know what the plans are for spectators. I think even for the IPL, there's talk that spectators will be allowed in. So if
Yeah.
they are for the IPL, they will be for the World Cup. But to get one of those tickets for that first game, you'll be a very popular person if you've got a spare. I believe you, me. But in terms of the group, we've got New Zealand, Afghanistan straight after that. Then we play the qualifiers, most likely Bangladesh from Group B, and Ireland probably finishing second in Group A. We should still finish in the top two to get to the semi-finals.
No, I definitely think we're finishing top two. It'll be awesome if Pakistan can make it as well, because then that might set up another clash in,
Oh,
you know,
don't say that. The
in the
heart can
final,
only
and
take one game.
yeah, yeah. I'm certainly gonna, cut all my nails up front, because I don't think I'll be able to stop myself when the matches happen. But what's interesting is if Sri Lanka finish second in Group A and Bangladesh finish first in Group B, that's going to be an Asia Cup with like New Zealand involved, because it's going to be India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and yeah, that's about it, and New Zealand. So they're just going to be left out of place, and it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. I think India certainly will finish in the top two. Um, and I have a feeling New Zealand are better placed than Pakistan at this point in time, in terms of form and in terms of strength of the squad, and how they are, the recent results. So I think India and New Zealand will make the top two from our group. And from the first group, it's really hard to say. I mean, England are obviously favorites to win the
Yeah,
competition. There's no doubt about that.
I fancy the
And
West Indies
Australia, if
from
you
that
go by,
group.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be either implode or explode for West Indies, because they don't know any other form of cricket.
Mm.
Given the way that they played in the recent series against Australia as well. In my opinion, the only flaw in West Indies is they don't have that one batsman who can play. I mean, stay around, and the rest of them can sort of explode around that one guy. So I think that's something that they need to sort out, and their bowling attack as well, because they've gone back to their old war horses in the form of Bravo, Pollard, Russell, Chris Gale. So all these players certainly have the experience, and they're big stars in the IPL. But for them to figure out the 11, figure out how they can sort of work their plans around one particular individual in the batting department and rely on someone in the bowling department will be very, very hard. But yeah, apart from England, I've got a feeling that either West Indies or I wouldn't say South Africa, because
Mm.
it's a very, very weird team right now. I
Yeah,
definitely don't see them making that top two.
no,
So
they're in a
yeah,
bad place at the moment.
between West Indies and Australia, I'd say Australia for me, because they're going to have their big guns back, with Warner, Steve Smith, Stark, all of them announced in their 15-man squad.
Yeah, yeah, they've already announced it, as have New Zealand. And New Zealand are one of those teams that always get to the semi-finals. You underestimate it at your peril. But obviously, again, we'll talk about the T20 World Cup as we get nearer the time and as the squads get announced. Especially ours, I'm sure we'll have a few debates around players picked and more importantly not picked. But before we move on to the incredible series that's happening now, I just want to get your thoughts on. I've just thought about this out, and we were talking about. Have you been watching the 100?
Well, I must say I haven't watched too much of it. I was very excited to watch it at the start. I did watch a couple of matches, in both the women's and the men's matches, but I haven't watched too much of it. I've just like followed it here and there, because like players are getting picked into the England side. None of them can bat, and so they're just depending on the 100 to get players in.
It's. I've just not watched it. I mean, I've got no investment. None of the teams are near me. We've got Nottingham, but I've got no links to Nottingham, so why would I support them? And I'm not going to support. Birmingham is the next team next to me, but yeah, the crowds have been there, but I just don't see the point of the 100 because the T20 Blast used to get those sort of crowds, especially the finals
Yeah.
day. I think they and the quarterfinals, but. maybe it's the first season, so it needs time. But and I'm not buying it at the moment. Maybe I mean the players. There's not big names there. There's obviously, hardly any Indians. It's good to
Yeah,
see the Indian women playing a big part in their
yeah,
team, so
yeah.
that's really good to see. But no, I've not bought into the 100 yet. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on whether people are taking, because I actually, if I'm awake, I'll watch the bash, the big bash. I think it's good to watch. It's a good
Yep.
and the Caribbean Premier League is covered here, but the 100 it's just not taken. I've not taken to it as yet. So we'll see.
I think what happened initially was that everyone was very excited about the format because it was something new. They wanted to figure out how teams play out those 100 balls and the combinations that were going to be in play and things like that. Um, and once the format was figured out, I think, like you said, there aren't too many big names out there. You would see the same names in the IPL. Probably fewer names, in fact, because obviously you don't see those local English players in the IPL. So it died down as people started realizing that there's not much that can be tweaked within the format. They probably watched the first 4 5 games to see what the format is, what the hype is, how teams are going to play out, and later on it was just a shortened version or probably a DLS or a truncated version of a T20 game. So that's probably what it is. And there are way too many matches happening, way too many formats, way too many players playing all over the place for you to follow one league fully. So I think that's what it is. Yeah.
I don't think this will expand to other countries. The 100. So we'll see.
No, 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 not happening.
No, but yeah, the ECB are banking on this to become a success and become a bit of a cash cow for them. So we'll see what happens. Now, the England India series. I mean, that fifth day. I was lucky enough, like I said, to be on holiday, and I didn't move from my chair. How was your day on the fifth day? And when you started, what were you hoping for? All three results were possible. But also, tell
Yep.
me, when did we grow a tail?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure we ever grew a tail. It just sort of happened to take place on that very day. 181 for six. Rishabh Pant out there. Nick Solly Robinson to Josh Butler. Outwalks. You have only bowlers left. You've got Ishan Sharma. You've got Shami. You've got Bumrah. And you've got Siraj. You have no one to
Proper
bank
number
on. You've
11s
got
in
no
my
lead
book.
whatsoever. Yeah, I mean all three number 11s except Ishan Sharma, and they're scoring a 50. I mean, I'm actually in my answers, and I was telling my cousin that Shami might end up on the honors board before Virat Kohli does, and I'm sure Kohli didn't want that, and that's why he called the boys back in early. He didn't want to see Shami's name up there before his own, but yeah, it was an incredible effort. I think it just showed real character, especially in Bumrah. You don't see the man, celebrating too much. You don't see him flustered too much. But I think the Englishman certainly got to him with all the sledging, with the
Yeah.
bouncers, and Mark Wood, rattling him on the helmet, and Bumrah, sort of saying, "No, I don't want the single. I want to face I want to face Mark Wood." And the character was really brought out, and him celebrating every single wicket. The last shot after Anderson was bowled, Bumrah's a deep
Yeah.
square leg. He's jumping all over the place. Virat Kohli's run probably 2 kilometers away from the ground.
He does that after every
Everything's happening,
wicket.
and yeah, he does that after every wicket. And yeah, but to see the others celebrating the way that he did, you can see how he's transformed Mohammad Siraj into from a meme, from someone who was used as a meme, with his IPL performances and him giving away runs, to probably India's best red ball bowler in the series. I think it's been spectacular, and that Lord's test was absolutely phenomenal. I think to get that lead of the runs that we did, with the tail, absolutely phenomenal, and there couldn't have been a better day five, in my opinion. But more importantly, I think it's very important to understand, that Pujara and Rahane certainly played their parts in getting India, or rather taking the test match into the fifth day. With the resistance that they provided with the bat. So overall, I think very, very pleasing test match.
And we've just got a comment here. It's good to have support from the family. Ashok Keshwala asking, do you think this is the best win overseas so far? We had one in the winter.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd say it was because this wasn't expected of the tail. I'd say that you'd expect probably Washington Sundar and Rishabh Pant to play the knocks that they did in the final Test match, and obviously it's so exciting to see that something happening that that you see off late is that the tail is contributing in every other country except in India. So to see that Shami and Bumrah obviously contributed to the bat, and then later on the bowler stepped up. I think it was a very satisfying day five. And like you, I didn't move an inch as well. I had my laptop on the couch and sat and watched every single ball of that final day. So fantastic win, and probably one of the best Test wins overseas.
Absolutely. I've just got to answer Shubnam here. He's watching the show, but he's a football show fan, and he's on every week. And I love the guy for following the Desi Sports. Shubnam, we're back on Sunday, 4 p.m. Indian summer time. So join us then. But I'm glad you're on the cricket show as well, because with Prasen it's always fun. So carry on watching the cricket show as well. But the football show is back on Sunday. But in terms of the cricket and the game against England, Joe Root took a lot of criticism here in terms of how he set up the field and the bowling against our so-called tail enders. Do you agree with that?
I think the England bowlers definitely bowled better than what we did, to be very honest, because when you're bowling to tailenders, I think as much as you'd want them to nick one to the keeper, I don't think they're interested to score runs as much as you'd expect them to. I think we were certainly bowling a lot outside the off stump. We weren't asking Robinson to play. We weren't getting him to sort of want to play the ball, and the ball that got him out eventually, Bumrah bowling from around the wicket, the slow
No,
ball
but
that
in
he
terms
bowled.
of
Um,
the England bowl against Ishan Shami on the fifth day.
yeah, I mean that too. I think Shami and Bumrah certainly played a lot of good shots. You probably wouldn't expect that from the Indian tail. That especially that one cover drive that Shami played. I think it was a glorious shot.
Hmm.
I don't think they bowled too bad, to be very honest. It's just that somehow the Indian tail found a way to bat, and they were really successful at it. You could see that Shami was really enjoying his
Hmm.
batting, thrashing Moeen Ali 90 meters. Rather, the ball I think hit the roof and went out of the stadium even, and things like that. So I think they really enjoyed their batting. I don't think England did much wrong, in my opinion. It was just that the Indian tail batted really well.
Yeah, there was just comments, and Root, I think he himself admitted in the post-match commentary interview that tactically he got it wrong. I think he was giving too many singles to the players, and he wasn't attacking
Yep.
enough. But you mentioned the passion and the spirit. Mohammad Siraj, oh man, he was pumped up, and you've seen quite a bit of Mohammad Siraj, obviously. Did you see that? I think that's his best bowling performance by a long way.
Absolutely. I think he certainly developed into a far better bowler than what he was probably year ago, a year and a half ago. And that started from the Australian series where, he was phenomenal. He picked up that 5 wicket haul. He was leading the bowling attack in the absence of Ishan, Shami, and Bumrah. So I think overall, Siraj has sort of blossomed into a very good red ball bowler. And obviously, Virat Kohli and the bowling coach Bharat Arun have played a very big role there, because it's hard to have that sort of a temperament in Test match cricket where you can get bogged down by batsmen denting every ball by defending it or leaving the ball. But I think Siraj has developed a very good ability to trouble batsmen. You saw that with the back-to-back wickets, making Sam Curran the first man to have a king pair at Lords, and obviously unfortunate that he didn't end up on the Lords honours board. Siraj obviously
Mm.
picking up 8 wickets, but I don't think that matters to him as long as India wins. So he played a very big role there. He was even in contention for the man of the match award, but that went to Rahul for his 129. So, but I'm really happy with the way Siraj has transitioned into the bowler that he is. That the wicket taking bowler, the guy who says never
Mm.
give up. and has that attitude to always pick up wickets. And he even now has a celebration that you really can't complain much about. So
No.
he's just a fantastic
I
bowler.
mean, he got into such a rhythm that you thought he was going to take a wicket with every ball. He
Ball, yeah.
almost got a hat trick, but he was really pumped up from the first ball when the England bowlers openers came in, and he was running in and giving them some verbal advice, shall we
Yeah.
say. The Indian team was really pumped up. I think there was a lot of how shall we say, passion from both sides. Words were said, but this Indian team gives it as good as it gets as well. And there is a thin line that you don't cross, but I don't think they crossed it.
Yeah, I think that's what Virat Kohli brings to the team. You know, he's never gonna back down from a fight. He's always gonna give blow for blow. He's someone who's very passionate about winning. Someone who's very passionate about making sure that his team is in the right spirit. I think Sky basically released a clip where he said these 60 overs should feel like hell for these England batsmen, and I'm sure that they certainly felt the heat that the Indian team sort of brought forward. So. I think Kohli has really instilled that sort of aggression in the team. You can see that in every single bowler. If you see someone like Bumrah who really doesn't celebrate much, jumping and almost injuring himself and things like that, you know that this Indian team is certainly something that loves the aggression, loves the passion that flows within the team. So very happy with the win. I think this is a very important win for the Indian team. Almost coming back from the jaws of defeat to win a very important test. So uh, overall credit to Kohli where it's due. He's honestly changed his team a lot, instilled that winning atmosphere in the side. And you can see it, like you said, it just seemed like Siraj was going to come and pick up a wicket off every ball. He was really enjoying his bowling, sort of staring at Robinson, even if he didn't meet eye to eye or wasn't at that level. So, very pleasing win and a very pleasing test match overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Great theatre, and like you said, on the morning of the fifth, you probably thought England were slight favourites because of, especially after the early wicket of Punt. But it's a new generation of Indian players that we've had for a few years that is being showcased at the moment. But the man of the match, but also, the opening partnership between Rohit and KL really set us up in tough conditions.
Yeah, I think it was very important because Rohit Sharma himself said that it was a very pleasing knock, and it's probably the best he's seen KL Rahul bat. Given that KL Rahul wasn't even supposed to be playing this game, Mayank Agarwal was due to play it, but because he got concussed and he couldn't play, KL Rahul came in. And the maturity he showed, the way that he gelled with Rohit Sharma. Obviously, Rohit is someone who's naturally aggressive. KL Rahul complemented that by playing the patient knock and sort of weathering out the early new ball storm. So I think the partnership worked out really well. They've obviously batted together in the past as well in the limited overs format. So uh, it was very pleasing to the eye, I think, to see one guy going after the bowlers and one guy sort of patiently batting it out while the other one goes off, with the shots that he has. So uh, very pleasing partnership. I think it was very important that we got off to a good start because our middle order was certainly shaky heading into the series. And for both of them to sort of put up that partnership was very important.
And let's be fair, with a bit of if it wasn't for the weather, we should have won the first Test match as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we certainly were in the driver's seat to win that. England got lucky. I think Michael won for all the tweeting that he's been doing. Finally,
He does
to
that
been happy
deliberately.
that
He knows what he's doing.
he
It's just that we Indians bite and we respond. We shouldn't. We should just keep quiet because we know why he's doing it.
yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it would have been pretty fun if India had won that because we could have gone all out against him. But it anyway happened after the second test, so I'm not complaining.
And at the moment, the England team is really down. In a way, I'm glad there's this little break until next week because India was such a high that they'll have time to get back to getting ready for the third test, and it's not straight away starting because you could still have the after effects of that incredible win. So I'm glad the break's at the right time. But any concerns around when you're winning? Even the poor performance of one player is sort of like papered over. But the one player I just want your opinion on. Yeah, any concerns around Pujara?
There are certainly concerns around him. I wouldn't say that there aren't concerns at all, but obviously, given his recent returns, it isn't ideal, that he's getting out early, considering what he's done in the past. But I feel that the innings that he played, the 43 that he scored, will certainly keep him in good stead ahead of the third test because he needed those runs. More importantly, he needed to stay out there and prove to his critics that he obviously can play the waiting game. He is known to play that sort of a role. So, um, like I said earlier, that partnership between him and Rahane was instrumental in taking the game into the fifth day. Otherwise, I don't even think we would have had that sort of runs on the board. It wouldn't have given the tail, some. It wouldn't have basically taken the shine of the ball to help the tail bat later on. Despite the new ball being taken later, I think the confidence was built in the team by the way Pujara and Rahane batted. So very important for Pujara to have scored that runs, and I hope he maintains that form into the third, fourth, and fifth test because he's obviously one of the main batters in the side, and for him to score that runs and to put up that knock, I think was very very important.
And so, from what you're saying, shouldn't consider any changes for the third test at Leeds.
Um, it's very hard to keep out, to keep out someone like Ashwin with the experience that he has and 400 plus test wickets. But who are you going to drop? You can't really drop
Exactly.
anyone after after the win that we had. So it's very hard to make any changes. So I wouldn't say we're going to make any changes. I think we're going to stick with the same 11 as hard as it is to keep Ashwin out of the side.
Question for you, Prasan from Shubnam. How long does Rana stay after this?
Oh well, that's a very very important question. I think it's something that probably Rahane has in his mind as well. How long am I going to stay after the poor performances that he's had? But I think Kohli is someone who really believes in his players.
Mm.
He's believed in his players for a long time. We haven't seen him making too many changes in the side unless it's forced by an injury or something like that. So I'd say that he certainly will play the upcoming two test matches. Certainly the next one, they won't drop him, given that he's a vice captain. He's someone who that the important 100 that he scored in Australia as well. Obviously, he's not in the greatest of form, but I certainly don't think they'll drop him right away. He's a very important member of that side. He's played a lot of games for the country, and he's that sort of batsman who is going to score runs as well as defend. Unfortunately, things haven't gone his way. He's had a very very lean patch. But I think even just like the way Pujara played an important knock in that fourth innings, he also played a very very important hand at making sure that the Indian team didn't get skittled out early on. So I think that will be a confidence booster, and he'll take that into the third test, and hopefully from there he scores runs and make sure that he has a big impact. So I don't think he's going away anytime soon. But if he fails in the upcoming test matches, then that might sort of sound the alarm bells going forward.
And going forward, somebody said that we should be winning the next two or three. Well, winning the next this series very comfortably. I was trying to find the right word because I don't want to say we're going to win the next three test matches, but the way the England team is at the moment, especially their the batting, the struggles they're having at opening. I mean, you've seen they brought a white ball specialist into the test team in Milan, who's not played any test cricket for I don't know how long, a couple of years maybe. That they're really struggling, and when a team's down, you've really got to finish them off. What are your thoughts on the rest of the series and where England are and the troubles they're having and how well we are in terms of the confidence?
I think England need to find someone else who can score runs apart from Root. That's going to be their major focus. They've tried a lot of players. They obviously have now dropped Dom Sibley from the side. They've got in David Malan. But again, how much he brings to the table in terms of red ball cricket versus what he's done in white ball cricket is something that's going to be assessed very thoroughly because we're seeing that the Indian bowlers are performing really well. And obviously in England, you expect bowlers to do well. I think they're really missing out someone like Stuart Broad who can trouble batsmen with that fuller length. Sam Curran hasn't exactly proved his worth, if I can put it that way. Apart from taking that wicket of Virat Kohli, he obviously got a king pair. You'd expect an all-rounder to contribute a lot more than that. So I think in terms of a team overall, they need to find someone who can stick around, who can score runs like the way Joe Root did. I think one of the biggest positives is the way Josh Butler took the game almost until the end,
That wasn't his
with
natural
nine
game.
eight. Exactly, for someone who's as attacking as him, for someone who can score runs at such a breakneck speed, for him to play so many deliveries and not score runs and rather stick around, make sure that he plays out the overs was very very important. I think it's more than scoring runs. For him to have lasted that long is going to be a big positive for England. But they certainly need to find a way to score runs, for someone to score runs apart from Joe Root. And unfortunately, that's not happening in conditions which are favorable to the England team. They know the conditions, and instead the Indian team is doing that. So uh, they certainly need to sit and figure out a way by which they don't depend on Joe Root, and I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for them.
Yeah, it is a struggle because Joe Root's coming in, after about 30 runs, they're two down. They're just not getting the start, and then they bring a young player like Habib in, who's not played any Test cricket for I don't know how many years again, and he's under pressure already because even if he plays a third Test, which he will, because there's who else are you going to play? After
Yeah,
the duck and then the struggles he had in the second innings because he was lucky. He stuck around for 40 odd balls, but it's just so fragile, that batting order at the top. And once Root goes, the team collapses and they've got no
yeah.
other they've not got option after that. So they're in a bit of trouble at the moment, England. They've got quite a few headaches and, with their main man staying away from the game for hopefully he'll be back for the T20 World Cup. I'm not sure where else they can go for any players, but that's their problem, as they say. It's not our problem. But I think for us, it's looking good for the third, fourth, and fifth test. I just put a message up. Shubnam is being kind and giving England a win. He thinks England will win, but will win the series. I'll be surprised if England win. What do you think? A test match?
Yeah, no, I really don't see them winning a test, because obviously, as well as the England bowlers are doing, James Anderson's probably going to be playing for the next 50 years. But they don't have that sort of a player, apart from Joe Root in the batting order that they can depend on. And like I said, the England conditions obviously favor the bowlers, where bowlers are obviously going to enjoy the conditions a lot more. And you need batsmen to sort of weather the storm, ensure that they're out there to sort of dent the bowling attacks. But that's not happening with England. They don't have anyone. Probably Hasib Hamid will be again sent up the order in place of Dom Sibley, and he'll open Brody Burns. Someone like David Malan coming into the side in the middle order again isn't tested in the red ball format as much as he'd probably like. Ollie Pope hasn't found in the side place in the side. Zach Crawley, hasn't scored runs. Daniel Lawrence was thrown out of the side. So it's an England team that's really in confusion. They don't know their 11 yet, or I'd say that they don't know their top seven yet. And that's really unfortunate because I think among the players, only Joe Root, Moeen Ali, and Josh Butler and James Anderson are certainties to start. Obviously, given there's no Stuart Broad, Ollie Robinson makes the side, but the batting order really doesn't have an exoskeleton that you can depend on. So I really don't see them winning a test because they don't have the batsmen to score runs as much as they have the bowlers to take the wicket. So it's going to be very, very hard for them to get to a stage where they can beat India, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they're already talking about the Ashes series and not looking forward to it at all at the moment. So, yeah, a few problems for England, but it's been an incredible time for Indian sport all round. We were crying when we heard the national anthem when Neeraj won the gold medal. Hockey came home, with our bronze medal and this test victory on Monday. It's great time to be an Indian sports lover, as it were. So, but it's even better when I'm talking to you as well about it. So, this hour has absolutely flown by. We've covered a lot of topics, but the main thing is we're back and you're back, and it's good to talk to you. And the weekly show will hopefully continue now as there is a lot more cricket to come. But all I can say is thank you, Prasan. It's been really good. You stay safe, my friend, and no doubt we'll catch up next week again when there'll be another test match and more cricket to talk about.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me again. Obviously, love being on the show and chatting with you. So thank you so much, and see you next week.
Fantastic. And last comment goes to Shubnam, a loyal viewer and supporter. Love the Olympic show too and love this conversation. Thank you, Shubnam. It's all down to Prasen and the guests and supporters like you. But quick thank you to everybody. Thanks, Prasen. Take care, my friend.
Thanks, Bharat. Cheers.